Let's do it.
We've got Melissa DeTora versus Kenji Igashira.
All right, enjoy.
Hello and welcome to round 4 of the Magic Online Community Cup. I'm Brian David Marshall. I'm here with Matt Tabak, and we are watching Melissa DeTora there on your left. Of course, a Pro Tour top 8 competitor versus, well, really like the gold standard in streaming, Kenji Igashira.
So early in the round here. Now, Kenji in his blue-red deck coming out. Going to drop Melissa to...
That's a Kozilek Sentinel that he played. It's a 1/4 devoid, and whenever you cast a colorless spell, it gets a +1/+0 until end of turn.
All right. So that's a red spell that...
what he played on turn 2, I can't tell you yet.
So, folks, if you're watching at home, you know, you're going to kind of
actually, that's, you know what that is? That's actually a card we're very familiar with. That's actually Anticipate.
Oh.
So that's the new art for Anticipate.
Well, there you go.
So he just, you know, sifted a little bit through the top of his library and dug for some stuff there. That's the Ally. Oh, no, that's actually the Invoker right there from Melissa. So that's like, if you're familiar with the Invoker cycle, that's Valakut Invoker. So for 8 mana, you can have it deal 3 damage to target creature or player. This is like some kind of speed reading class.
So I got to tell you, working for Wizards of the Coast and being the rules manager and seeing these sets through development and then writing the release notes for these, I don't actually get to look at a lot of art, so I apologize if I don't immediately recognize.
Well, I do recognize that card. That's Kozilek's Channel.
That is Kozilek's Channel.
That was a card that was actually previewed a couple weeks back at PAX in the gunslinging event.
Oh, okay, yeah, we had a big event, big battle for ZENDIKAR celebration a couple weeks ago at PAX, where actually a lot of Wizards celebrities and actual, you know, non-Wizards celebrities took on the role of the Eldrazi.
I believe that's another card we're well familiar with called Rolling Thunder.
Yeah, Rolling Thunder, RR and X. You get to deal X damage divided any way you choose amongst your opposing creatures.
So,
and
there's the Akum Firebird from Kenji. It's a flying haste 3/3, and then it has a landfall trigger. So if you deal with it, landfall, it's gonna you can pay 6 mana to return it to the battlefield.
Yeah, Firebird is a very powerful mythic rare. The landfall triggered ability actually functions from the graveyard, like you said. You pay 4 RR, and you'll be able to put it right back onto the battlefield. So that's going to be a constant threat that Melissa may not have a way to deal with permanently. We'll see.
Well,
she's sitting at 16.
Melissa's got that. She's got the Invoker there, and it looks like she is at the point where she's got 8 mana, so she can start like shotgunning things. 3 damage. She can do 3 damage to target creature or player with that.
Yeah, fans of Magic may have seen the Invokers before. We have some new versions.
Yeah, I like this one.
This time, Battle for ZENDIKAR.
Yeah, Valakut Invoker is kind of. I mean, this is a card that Kenji has to deal with right now.
Yeah. This is a 2/3, a 3-drop, but of course that activated ability, all the Invokers have a big activated ability for 8 mana, 3 damage target creature or player. And that's a fine way to handle the Firebird, actually. And most of Kenji's army, come to think of it.
That's Bane of Balaged there. Bane of Balaged's a 7/5, and whenever it attacks, defending player has to exile 2 creatures.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's the 7/5.
That's the big one we talked about during deck building.
And now it's on Melissa to function. Oh, perhaps my Rolling Thunder was a little hasty.
So we definitely got some haymakers going back and forth here. I'm sure Melissa would love that Rolling Thunder back in her hand now.
Yeah, we don't know how many Rolling Thunders she opened.
Oh, that's true. And she does have 5 cards in hand. Not quite sure what those are, but she does have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, look like 8 mana available. do see Kozilek's Channeler, or the Elf Drazi, as we called it in playtesting.
All right.
Because of that mana ability.
These guys were teammates a couple years ago on the community team.
Yeah, it's been interesting following Melissa DeTora's betrayal of the community and her joining the Wizards. That's been one of the more interesting storylines we have followed.
So that's a Lifespring Druid that she just played there. That's 2/1 for 3 and lets her add 1 mana of any color to her mana pool.
Yeah, it's, again, part of the ramp portion of her deck.
And she has used it to ramp into a Barrage Tyrant.
That's the Barrage Tyrant. So Barrage Tyrant, 5/3, devoid. And for 2R, sacrifice another colorless creature. Barrage Tyrant deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to target creature or player. So a lot of repeatable sources of damage on Melissa's side of the table here.
But in the meantime, she's going to end up having to deal with this Balaged dude.
Yeah, two of Melissa's permanents might be hitting the exile zone in short order.
Well, it's not targeted, the exile. So she does get to choose.
Oh, yeah, no, it's her choice. Absolutely.
And this looks like that might be a Rolling Thunder, all his own for Kenji Igashira.
The way Kenji's hand was bouncing, that
Yes.
can only be one spell.
He's
That
like,
is Rolling Thunder.
That, and you. And now in comes Bane of Balaged, in comes the Akum Firebird.
So Bane of Balaged's ability is going to trigger. Now Melissa has to exile 2 of her permanents.
Looks like she's going to pick 2 tapped lands. Nope. She does 1 tapped land and her Invoker. So what does she have in store here? She was definitely preserving her mana. Oh,
Channeler in the land, but nope, she doesn't have anything, and game 1 will go to Kenji. All right, well, that was fun. That was a good game. A lot of haymakers there, right?
Rolling Thunder
Rolling
on each side of the table. It was interesting. I talked to, I was like a little like, guys, Rolling Thunder? Do you remember how, like, hideous this card was to play against?
We made it uncommon. It was common
It
before.
was common before. But it was interesting because apparently, because it's really there to mop up scions, right? Like,
Yeah, oh yeah.
and like, but if you're playing like other card types, because of the scions, all the other creatures have more toughness.
Right.
Then you don't have as many X1 creatures because then they just run into a scion and they die. So Rolling Thunder's a little harder, as you could not see there, to get.
Right. Development was development was certainly a more aware of 1 toughness is much more of a liability here because of so many scions running around. So yeah, Rolling Thunder, but still a great way to take out 2 creatures and ping your opponent down. So players are getting shuffled up and doing some sideboarding.
Kenji looks a little pleased with his victory over the betrayal of Melissa DeTora.
Yeah, and that was quite a board he was facing down, right? If he didn't take control there, Melissa's repeatable damage through that Invoker was threatened to take over.
What was the other card she had? She had a Barrage Tyrant as well.
Yeah, Barrage Tyrant lets you sacrifice colorless creatures.
And does that have that's 3 mana? But then you get to deal damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to target creature or player. So that is...
Yeah, so he kind of flings colorless creatures around. It's 2 and a red to activate that ability. But don't forget the Barrage Tyrant is a 5/3 creature itself, so...
You can't sacrifice itself, though, sadly.
Can't sacrifice itself.
You don't get to go 5 to the head with it.
No, that's true. I more meant you could attack with the 5/3.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Or it could fling another Barrage Tyrant, though.
Oh, yeah.
That is a thing.
That's perfectly reasonable.
But remember, kids, the way the stack works, they can't throw each other.
Yeah, I've got it.
He's not a goblin. There's no way goblin would come up with that kind of plan. All right, we see some smiles from the players. I know
That's not
that
much of a smile from Melissa. She knows she's
that was a
she's
good
in trouble
smile.
here.
I know we're smiling here in the booth. Hopefully, you're smiling at home or wherever you are. as we take you to game 2. Players getting shuffled up. We'll see if there's any mulligans. I get very excited about the new mulligan rule. Get to see that in action. But a couple lands over on Kenji's side. He looks good. Melissa's good. And we are off and running. Early turns, not much action. Melissa passes on 2. Kenji has a play on turn 2, though.
That's the same card he played last game.
Kenji played something on turn 2, I'm sure.
That's Kozilek Sentinel.
Oh, there it is.
That's
okay,
the 1/4,
good.
and then it gets bigger every time he plays a colorless spell.
Oh, fantastic.
So, for example, he just played
that's
Nettle Drone.
That's Nettle Drone.
Yeah.
Nettle Drone, I know.
Played Nettle Drone, tax for 2. So.
Nettle Drone, a 3/1 devoid, can tap to deal 1 damage to each opponent, and whenever you cast a colorless spell, you get to untap Nettle Drone. So if the attack isn't there, it does have low toughness. It is a 3/1, but if the attack isn't there, it can still keep the damage pressure on by hitting your opponent for 1 or more damage a turn. So Melissa accelerating her mana production, which is what her deck wants to do.
Yeah, well, like we said, she is a ramp deck.
Yeah.
So that was a natural connection she played there to jump up a land drop. You get to search your library for a basic land and put it onto the battlefield tapped.
But no play on 5.
But it's an instant.
Yeah, but no play on 5 mana for Melissa. So now 5 untapped lands, playing red. Any number of things could be in store here. It looks like a free attack. Kenji, the way is clear. Will he send in his creatures, though?
Well, I mean, that's certainly something we've been talking about, this idea that you don't really want to attack into 5
you really
open
don't.
mana.
Now, we see what Kenji did here. He tapped Nettle Drone to deal 1 damage to Melissa, then cast a colorless spell, which is going to allow him to untap Nettle Drone. Now, Kenji could follow that up with tapping Nettle Drone again to deal another point of damage, or maybe he wants to attack.
Was that a Pilgrim's Eye he played there?
It does look like a Pilgrim's Eye. Allows him to search his library for a basic land card. And here comes the attack. So we see Melissa was not bluffing. Takes out the attacker.
Deals damage equal to the number of lands she controls. One of the good instant removal spells in this format, Stone Fury.
Yeah, we see Melissa with hitting her land drops. Definitely what her deck wants to do. Tap 6.
And there's Rolling Thunder.
There is the Rolling Thunder. Kenji will get 1 more point of damage out of the Nettle Drone before it goes away.
Nice job mopping up there. Although Kenji's a little slower in his mana development.
Yeah.
There's his Kozilek's Channeler.
Kozilek's Channeler's really nice.
Goes
4
from 5 to 7 or 8 next turn.
Also taps for 2 mana, which I believe is there Bane of Balaged in Kenji's hand?
There's another Channeler in his hand. I can see that. Channeler into Channeler, a little less exciting.
We might be seeing that. Now, Channeler does have a fairly sized body attached to it. It is a 4/5.
So it's a Void Attendant there for Melissa. And that is a Bane of Balaged. You were correct.
That mana ramp does good work. Oh, well.
That Titan's Presence.
That would appear to be Titan's Presence.
Yes, Titan's Presence. That's a card I'm excited to play with. I'm curious how many colorless creatures you need to play with in order to cast that.
Yeah,
effectively.
It's a 3-cost instant. As an additional cost, you have to reveal a colorless creature card from your hand, as we saw Melissa do. Exile target creature if its power is less than or equal to the revealed card's power. So a really efficient removal spell for potentially large threats if you have the right card in hand. Fortunately, Melissa did. And the Bane of Balaged took off to exile. 16 apiece here in Game 2. Melissa DeTora representing Team Wizards versus Kenji Egashira representing Team Community.
But there's the Rolling Thunder for Kenji. 1 card in hand from Melissa. She's one away from being able to... No, 2 away, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not quite able to cast her Ulamog.
Right. Now, the Ulamog is what she revealed for the Titan's presence.
Yeah. So that's her 1 card.
Right. So Kenji knows she has it. It does cost 10, so he knows he's got a little bit of time.
He also knows it's indestructible.
Yeah. That is true. It's a 10/10. It's indestructible. If Melissa does cast it, she'll be able to exile 2 target permanents. And unlike the Bane of Valagad, she'll get to target those. But Kenji's just going to keep playing along. We see an Eldrazi Scion up here.
She also has a Scion. That's the Eldrazi Sky Spawner. That's an Ondu champion, it looks like. So that's an ally. It's 4/3. It has rally, and whenever it or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control gain trample. Not super exciting at the moment.
No. One thing to keep in mind with the rally deck, you probably see more than one deck based around allies today. It triggers whenever an ally enters the battlefield under your control. But the bonus always affects your entire team, even the non-allies. So, of course, in Seal deck, you're not going to be able to have all allies in your deck, but still, the bonuses from rally will always apply. So let's see what we have here. 11-16 in Kenji's favor.
Gets in with the Sky Spawner. It looks like he's going to play another Channeler here, setting up for a very, very big Rolling Thunder.
Yeah, and Rolling Thunder can certainly hit players, so at a precarious 9 life is Melissa. Kenji is closing in on that victory, especially with that card in hand.
That looks like a Windrider Patrol from Kenji, which he used his Scion for. That's a 4/3 flyer, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, scry 2.
An excellent card for smoothing out your late game draws, making sure every card you get is quality. Yeah, and it looks like we have, there it is, the handshake is offered.
Let me show you how Rolling Thunder is supposed to work.
Sometimes you clear out your opponent's army, sometimes you clear out your opponent.
Yeah.
And congratulations to Kenji taking that one 2-0. It's a
pretty, pretty strong showing for Rolling Thunder.
Yeah, no, Rolling Thunder's no joke. It was common last time it was printed. That's, a little ridiculous. But a very powerful removal spell. If you're playing Battle for Zendikar Limited, please be on the lookout for that.
We came so close to seeing an Ulamog.
We were, what, 2 mana
we did
off?
see it briefly, right? We saw
it was revealed.
Revealed the Titan's presence.
Right. But
1 mana away for Melissa to be able to cast it.
Yeah, 10/10
that probably might have been enough for her to swing the game around.
It's possible because she can
get the 2 channelers.
Right. She picks the 2 targets for the cast trigger. Excuse me. It's not even an enters the battlefield. Right. It's a cast, and then 10/10 indestructible, and you're off to the races. That might have been enough to turn it around, but alas, was not to be. Welcome back to the booth. Hi, everybody.
So, yeah, like a couple of interesting cards there. Kum Firebird card.
Yeah.
I was kind of interested to see. I know Kenji was not sure. He's like, I don't know how good this is.
It's good.
When he's building it, he's like, I guess, you get conditioned that you don't want to pay, a set like this where sometimes you can pay 5 mana for something like a Kozilek Channeler, which is giving you a slightly bigger body and mana.
Right.
And then you're like, well, this costs this much, and it's a 3/3.
Yeah.
But... do I want to pay 6 to bring it back? Yes, you do.
You usually do.
And haste.
Yeah. 3/3 flyer haste. Yeah. It's a little smaller than some threats, but just the repeatable nature of it. Unless your opponent has a permanent way to deal with it, that Firebird just keeps coming over and over and over.
Stone Fury is another card.
Yes, we saw that.
A lot of things that you have to worry about when your opponent has 5 mana untapped and one of it is red.
Yes.
Could be Stone Fury.
Could be Turn Against. Could be any number of things.
Have you cast Turn Against?
I have.
Tell me about it.
It's really nice. So your opponents, you're looking across the table, and your opponent is like, oh, they have 2 creatures. That's good. And then 5 seconds later, they have no creatures, and that's better. It's really nice.
Yeah,
it'll blow up.
So hard to explain how difficult it is to play around if you're attacking.
Oh, it's so hard to figure out because.
Well, maybe we can find out what Kenji thinks about Turn
Yeah.
Against, because I know it was in his deck, and his opponent was Melissa DeToro, who turned against him from the community team to the Wizards team. That's pretty tawdry tale. So I think Tim Willoughby is standing by with an interview with Kenji Higashira right now.
Let's take it there.
And I'm down on the feature match area floor with Kenji Higashira. Pretty happy to have picked that one up because there was a very scary Eldrazi that didn't quite make it into play, but definitely made its presence known in that match.
Yeah, she, stuck on 9 mana for a few turns after revealing it, and luckily, I was able to keep developing my board, had the Rolling Thunder in hand since the beginning, so I was able to craft a board state where, I could just burn her out.
It was kind of interesting, actually, because stood where I was watching that match, I could see that Ulamog was perilously close to getting into play in game 1 as well. And in fact, when you were attacking and forcing exiling of permanents, that was the only reason that Ulamog didn't come into play in game 1. So dodged a little bit of a bullet there, but ultimately, that's the reason you have Rolling Thunder and so on in your deck, so you can just finish things off fast.
Yeah, no, my deck's completely awesome. I really like the blue-red archetype. We've been, playing it online a little bit, so we've gotten to test a lot of the color combinations, and red-blue just does some work. I could have built a more aggressive deck, but it wouldn't have had all of the Eldrazi's and the Devoid creatures, but I'm running some 1/4 Devoid creatures, but when you have 15 other cards that are colorless, it really stacks up and gets some nice synergy going.
Yeah, lots and lots of value in this archetype. And actually, there was an interesting play that happened during that match that I was wondering if you could just mention, because I don't know if it necessarily will be something that's immediately obvious to everyone at home when they first see it. The turn where Melissa passed with 5 mana up, and you were looking really worried about all your attacking. Explain exactly why that was.
Well, number one, I don't know everything that's in the format still, and my 3/1 that could attack, still had an activated ability, so I could still shoot for 1 damage. Worst case scenario, I was only losing on 2 points of damage. There is a card in the format. It's actually in my deck. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but we were talking about it earlier. It's like the Ray of Command. It's red in this format. It is called, Turn Against. Now, in that scenario, I couldn't really play around it anyways, even if I had attacked with both creatures. But it was more, I didn't know what could have happened. I was like, okay, I'll take the 2 less damage to keep a guy back.
Yeah, Turn Against, to me, Rolling Thunder is certainly one of the more terrifying cards in this format. I think it's fair to say that almost anyone that's opened one likely to be playing it in this sealed format. But Turn Against is a very easy 2-for-1 a large proportion of the time, and that's exactly what you're kind of looking for in any limited format.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about when I was doing the deck building. It's so hard to play against, right? Even if you have 2 creatures, you only attack with 1, they can still take your other creature that's not attacking, or if you attack with multiple creatures, they can steal one of the attacking creatures and block, something else. So it's a huge blowout. It's only 1 red, so it's very splashable, and there's a lot of fixing, Evolving Wilds, Pilgrims, just all of the lands, so I play that card.
Yeah,
that card.
Pilgrim's Eye, a nice welcome reprint as well, because this is a format where you've got Converge going on, you've got lots of reasons to want to have lots of lands in play, and just a very easy way of achieving it. It seemed like this is a format where, unlike, we've just come from Magic Origins, now there are lots and lots of cards that turn around and say, well, I'm a creature in play and I can beat people up, but there's so much value in this format. Everything does something.
Yeah, again, I'm running 18 lands, even though my curve might not be very high. I have 2 of the Kozilek's Channelers to even produce more mana, so I'm just planning on digging through my deck with double Anticipate, finding the Rolling Thunder, finding the Bane of Valaged, the 7/5, Exiles 2 when it attacks. It's crazy, it's great.
Yeah, Annihilator, no longer a thing in the format in general, but Bane of Valaged, has little shades of that sort of thing going on, and certainly proved to be very, very important in game 1, because as we say, without those attacks, unbeknownst to you, Ulamog would have came to town, and as big as Bane of Valaged is, Ulamog is basically, the biggest kid in town.
Yeah, the bee's knees.
But congratulations on this first win. I know that you're keen to go and see how some of your teammates are doing, because this is a team format. There is the opportunity to help out your team. So I'm going to let you go now, Kenji, but congratulations on the first win in this format.
Thank you.
We head back to the booth now.
I don't know about you. I'm super jealous of all the cards in Kenji's deck. I want to open a Rolling Thunder. I want Turn Against. He has Brutal Expulsion also.
You heard him. Play the card. People at home, if you've learned anything from this cast, learn this. Turn against, Rolling Thunder, play the card. Play it. So good.
It's a reason to play mediocre red cards.
Yes.
To support it.
Total red blowouts if they happen your way. You may want to put those in your deck. And be aware of them. And like Kenji said, even if you know turn against is coming, it's really hard to play against because even if you attack with one creature, they'll just grab the other one and block. And what are you going to do?
Yeah, it is not active treason.
No. It is not active treason.
I remember many eons ago playing in a PTQ during Mirage Sealed.
Okay.
So this is, and my opponent attacked with 2 flyers, and I had Ray of Command.
Sure.
Killed both of them.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
great. I was like, untap that one, block, kill them. And he was like, whoa. He's like, I have 2 of those in my sideboard. He was playing blue.
Right.
But, at the time, it was just kind of like, oh, I use it, I take your guy, and I attack. That's not so good.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I get to borrow this and hit. No.
No,
Instant is very powerful. Blocking is
Yeah.
very powerful.
Yeah, that's going to become one of the mythic uncommons of the set.
Yeah, you don't hear that phrase from in Magic coverage very often. Blocking is very powerful
Yes.
when you can do it with their stuff.
Yes, when I block your creature
Yes.
with your creature,
Right.
that's when blocking is great.
Absolutely.
Even chump blocking's okay. Now.
Sure. I mean, so, removal is
It's
removal.
still not as good, but it's fine. So, I'm not sure what we have lined up. We don't have the other matches to go through on the computer. Oh, well, you know
okay,
what?
interesting. We have
Some people were asking me on Twitter to get Jimmy Wong on camera.
and we are doing that.
Yes.
It sounds
yes.
like Jimmy Wong and Mike Turian, their match is being moved over.
Yeah. Congratulations, Jimmy Wong. You're going to be on camera. Being devoured by
By
a
the way.
wild Mike Turian.
Turian's been on kind of a tear. Rolling Thunder right in his wheelhouse. These are, cards from his heyday,
Yeah.
give or take. So we'll get those 2 players in place. And
Mike Turian was very excited. He was building a very aggressive deck as I walked around the room watching him. He was, he had, some beaters,
Okay.
some removal, some
Okay.
tempo.
do you remember what color combination he ended up
I
on?
think he was going to be black red.
Okay.
Very very aggro.
That's
And
right. I
and
remember-
black red that's sort of the theme of that color combination.
Yeah, it's very aggressive, as we've mentioned before. It's very hinged on colorless synergy. So there's a lot of cards whose names escape me at the moment.
Sure.
But definitely get bonuses for casting lots of colorless creatures. There's ones that give them haste. There's ones that let you, Barrage Tyrant lets you sacrifice them for more damage. It's very, very aggressive deck. So here we go. Let's take a look.
And then you see Mike Turian, the Pro Tour champion, Mike Turian, Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Versus Jimmy Wong, the well-shirted.
The well-shirted
He's got a very
Jimmy
nice
Wong.
shirt. In his Magic career, he's achieved a very nice shirt.
So it's like we're getting shuffled up for game 3 of this
Ooh.
match.
All the marbles.
Now, I don't know how up to date our scoreboard is. This says community 4836. 4839. Look at that.
Wow.
So the community team carried a 12-point lead into this format after 3 rounds.
So they've closed the gap a little bit.
Yeah,
here.
Wizards is creeping back.
Well, and
picked
this
up a match
this
there.
is the format that you would expect them to have a little bit of an edge on.
This was the one format where we thought definitely the Wizards team has an advantage, and then we remembered that tomorrow we're drafting Battle for Zendikar, and maybe that's really where the advantages would
I
come
don't
in.
think.
I don't know.
I don't believe that's where. I watched Joel Larson drafting this format already.
Well, Joel Larson is not a highly accomplished pro for nothing.
Yeah.
So
I'm just saying. Draft is draft.
That's
you know?
true.
We
Draft is draft.
Sealed. You have to be a little more. You have to, understand the cards. There's a lot more moving pieces.
Right.
You're it's like you have 90 cards spread out in front of you, and you've got to call away 70 of them.
Right.
It's really hard to process all that new information. Draft, you're just like, okay, so I opened this really good Rolling Thunder, and now I'm looking at red cards. I'm going to ignore these other cards.
It is true that your sort of focus gets narrowed through the drafting process, where Sealed is a bit more challenging in that there's opportunities once you open up your cards. You just have all these cards and what to deal with it. And this gets back to what Marshall and I were talking about those multicolor uncommons kind of leading the way, acting as guideposts, especially if you're building a sealed deck. So hopefully players enjoy those next week at the Battle for Zendikar pre-releases. We think it's an awesome format. We think it's a lot of fun. So hoping you guys get out and enjoy that for yourselves. And
Mike Turian, he's like, I don't need sleeves. I didn't open an expedition.
now I'm also on team no sleeves for limited. I don't put protective sleeves on my cards when playing sealed deck. Mike and I, we're hardcore.
Yeah. So Mike leads off with an Evolving Wilds, doesn't waste any time. Just like says, you know what? We're in game 3 here. I'm gonna get going. I'm gonna go get a swamp.
There we see the hypnotic shuffling techniques of one Michael Turian. Jimmy's doing some gesturing. Not sure
there's an
quite what he's
island.
pointing at. All right, so it looks like black, blue, red.
Yeah, so he's Grixis.
Yeah. One of those inevitably a splash.
That's the 2/2.
Looking like it's potentially the red.
That's the core.
So it looks like core Castigator over on Jimmy's side. 2 mana, 1W for a 3/1. Can't be blocked by Eldrazi Scions. It's an aggressive creature. It is an ally.
A couple colorless creatures there, a couple devoid creatures. That's a Benthic Infiltrator for Mike Turian.
Yeah, now Benthic Infiltrator, not only having a kind of a difficult name to pronounce, is interesting. It's 1/4, devoid, ingest. Now, we haven't really talked about ingest yet. Whenever a creature with ingest deals combat damage to a player, that player is going to exile the top card of his or her library. Also, Benthic Infiltrator can't be blocked. So this is going to be a constant threat unless Jimmy can find a way to deal with it. It's not only going to chip away at Jimmy's life total, but also going to eat at that library. Another ability we haven't really talked about yet are the processors.
Yeah,
now,
that's something I wanted to ask you about. It's
okay.
Like, how good is that? Because now there you see a card getting exiled from the ingest ability.
It's a strong theme in black-blue, as I recall. So basically, ingest exiles cards of your opponents. Now, there are some Eldrazi in the set that also have the subtype processor. And they all have an ability in various ways. Sometimes it's a cast trigger, sometimes it's an activated ability, where you can put cards of your opponents from exile into their graveyard to get awesome effects. So that's called processing the cards, kind of the nickname we gave them. So this deck uses ingest to kind of add food, and then processors uses that fuel to get some good effects.
So another culling drone there from Mike Turian. And you know what? Yeah, he's getting attacked. He doesn't care. He just keeps going.
Yeah, good back and forth. There. Now you saw what just got. You saw what just got ingested.
That's a Gideon.
That is Gideon, ally of Zendikar. Just came off the top of Jimmy's deck, and sadly is now sitting in exile. So,
by the way, Earthen Arms got cast to put 2 counters on the Shadow Glider there. So now it's going to get +1/+1 and Vigilance from the spell land. So when that land enters play, it has a little, enters the battlefield effect.
Right.
And that was the Sandstone Bridge. I like these a lot. I like these lands quite a bit. Those and the whole Blighted cycle as well.
Sandstone Bridge enters battlefield tapped. Taps for white and does, like you said, gives a creature +1/+1 and Vigilance when it enters the battlefield. Yeah, those are nice lands. Jimmy kind of hanging back.
Oh, wow. We just, you know what? I think we just saw our first.
There's our first
Is
Awaken.
that our first Awaken? That's the Hero's Downfall-esque
So
card.
Mike Turian, actually,
it's Ruinous Path.
Yeah, one of my favorite cards in the set, actually, Ruinous Path. 3 mana, destroy target creature or planeswalker, but he chose to cast it for its Awaken cost, 5 BB. And what that does now, so it's a destroy target creature or planeswalker, and also he targets one of his own lands, and that land is going to wake up, become an elemental creature, and get 4 +1/+1 counters. That's what we saw happen a little bit ago there.
And now Unnatural Aggression is the play here from Jimmy Wong.
And Mike Turian, of course, is naturally aggressive.
Naturally
so
aggressive.
he's crashing in and exiling even more of Jimmy's library, bringing Jimmy down to 11. It's 11 apiece here in game 3.
These guys are just swinging back and forth. But Mike's going to get to untap with a 4/4 land.
Yeah. Awaken, very powerful. Turns your lands into creatures. Also gives them haste. Of course, Mike needed the land for mana on that turn, so didn't get to swing, but might on this turn. And the cool thing about Awaken is because the second time you cast a spell with Awaken, you can target a different land, so you have more creatures, or you can target the same one. So that swamp that has 4+1/+1 counters on it, he can just add more counters to that one.
What would happen if I targeted a land that already had the ability to become a creature?
So what that's going to do is it's going to make it into a 0/0, and then give it more +1/+1 counters.
And then what happens if I animated it?
So if you then later animate it, the 0/0 is going to be overwritten. So let's take Shambling Vent. It's the white-black one. It's a land that has an ability that lets it turn into a 2/3 white and black creature. So if you do that on if it becomes Awoken, it'll now be a 2/3 with all those +1/+1 counters.
By the way, you want to talk about Mike sort of knowing what's going on? We saw Gideon's Reproach. Deal 4 damage to target attacking a black creature. Mike kept his land back there.
Sniffed that out,
Maybe
did he?
sniffed that out.
That's
yeah.
interesting. Mike certainly not hurting for mana, so... Well, not that time.
Is that...
He swung in with the 4/4.
No, that wasn't Sheer Drop. That was Smite the Monstrous.
I believe it was Smite the Monstrous,
yeah,
right.
An old friend.
Land had just enough counters to qualify.
Ooh,
Mike has to pick that up and read it.
Could you hand it over this way, Mike?
Come on,
Turian,
Mike. You don't just know what the card does when looking at it?
That's a Deathless Behemoth, by the way.
Who doesn't know what the cards are just by glancing at them? Come on, Mike Turian. Deathless Behemoth, a 6-drop, 6/6 Vigilance. Lets you sacrifice 2 Eldrazi Scions to bring it back from the graveyard to your hand as a sorcery. So again, one of those repeatable threats that a little bit more difficult to bring back, as we saw the Firebird, but a little bit bigger also.
Okay. Is this the card Mike is looking for? He's got a handful of stuff. He's got some options here. Taps 3 mana and then pauses.
He put out a card.
The white creature that got played, by the way, that's a Courier Griffin.
All right, so we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here in Game 3. Mike Turian sitting on 5 life, Jimmy Wong on 6. Here comes the attack.
This is the last match remaining on the floor, by the way.
6/6 Vigilance gets blocked. Looks like the Griffin's going to get in. And I believe that is
the Lifespring Druid.
Lifespring
we saw
Druid.
that in the last match.
2/1 taps for mana of any color.
Is Mike holding a Rolling Thunder to finish this off?
So that attack is going to bring Jimmy to 3. And I believe there's... That is it. It is over.
It's over. I believe Mike won since he pointed a Rolling Thunder at his opponent. All right.
I thought that was Rolling Thunder. Oh,
yes.
There we go.